Good evening. Thank you for being here with us this evening. Welcome to the virtual Meet the Candidates Political Forum hosted by the Warner Robins Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. My name is Rosalind Mitchell, and I am the president of the Warner Robins Alumni Chapter. With over 300,000 initiated members, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a nonpartisan organization committed to public service in local and global communities. Our international president is Mrs. Elsie Cook Holmes. Please help me welcome the moderators for this evening. First, our very own Miss Laprelle Todd. Laprelle Todd, a dedicated member of the Warner Robins Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, successfully balances dual roles as a contract specialist at Robins Air Force Base and as a grant manager for the Nurse Family Partnership Program at Houston County Health Department. In addition, she contributes to the Central Georgia Joint Development Authority, underscoring her commitment to community participation. Outside of her professional responsibilities, Laprelle enjoys spending time with her family, organizing events, cooking, traveling stateside and internationally, engaging in cultural enrichment through museum visits, and collecting outstanding art pieces. Welcome, Miss Laprelle Todd. Her co-moderator for this evening is Reverend Dr. Darrell J. Vining Sr. Dr. Vining Sr. is a native of Detroit, Michigan, and has resided in Warner Robins, Georgia since 1995. Dr. Vining is married to the former Diana Covington of Caledonia, Mississippi, and they are the proud parents of 3 children, Victoria, Darrell Jr., and Alexandria. Dr. Vining is a product of the Detroit public school system. He is a graduate of Cass Technical High School with a Bachelor of Science from Michigan State University. He also has a master's and doctoral degree in clinical pastoral counseling from the Minnesota Graduate School of Theology through the Georgia Bible College. Dr. Vining accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior in December 1992 at Fellowship Bible Baptist Church of Warner Robins, Georgia. In 1996, he accepted calling to preach the gospel to God's people under the direction of his pastor, the late Reverend Dr. Willie L. Reed Sr. In 2005, Dr. Vining co-founded and serves as the pastor of Hebron Fellowship Baptist Church. Dr. Vining has a strong unction to uplift and serve the community. He has served on several committees and boards throughout the community, dealing with the concerns of the homeless, mentoring the youth, as well as community health issues. From 2009 to 2011, Dr. Vining served as the moderator for the Rehoboth Baptist Association of Middle Georgia, the first time in its long history that an African American has held that position. A dynamic and sought-after lecturer and speaker, Dr. Vining's personal mission is to assist others in fulfilling the call that God has placed on their lives and training up an army of believers in Jesus Christ who are willing to lead by example as well as by word. Welcome, Dr. Vining.
Good evening.
Thank you for that warm welcome.
and introduction. Exercising your right to vote is paramount, and casting an informed vote is essential. We appreciate your attendance and delighted you joined us for the Meet the Candidate Voter Education Forum, where you can gain valuable insights into the local candidates running for Houston County Sheriff and Houston County Superior Court Clerk positions. After we hear from our local candidates, we will transition to the voter education portion of the forum, where we will have an open discussion with our panelists on issues that are critically important to our community. I am LaPrelle Todd, and I'm excited to help facilitate tonight's forum.
Good evening. Thank you all for having us into your time and your space. Let's meet the candidates for Houston County Sheriff. Let's bring in Mr. Matthew Moulton and Mr. Arthur Harris. Thank you again for joining us. Within a 2-minute time limit, we would like for you to share brief information about yourself, your vision, and why you decided to run for this position. We'll start with Mr. Harris and then Mr. Moulton.
Good evening. Thank y'all for having me here. And thank for the work that y'all do in our community, Deltas. My name is Arthur Lee Harris. I was born and raised in Barnett, Georgia. I attended schools in Houston County at the predominantly Black high school, Pearl Stevens, in Warner Robin, 197 Reed Street. I went Miller Georgia College, Georgia Southern, United States Army. I'm an Army veteran. And I lived in this community. I love this community. I coached the Warner Robin Jet baseball team for about 20 years. We went nationally all over the country playing baseball with boys 17 to 18. I coached in the Warner Robin Recreation Department for 25 years, coaching boys 11 to 12-year-old, winning many Optimus Bowl championships. Then I was deputy sheriff, city police officer for about 27 years. I was a street patrolman. I know my community and I understand my community and I know how to work with people in the community. Communication is so important in today's society. And I'm a people person. I just feel like that I could be able to make our county and our cities what it should be in Houston County. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Matt Moulton, and I was born and raised in Macon, Georgia. I lived in Elko for a period of time as a child, moved up to Kathleen for a couple years, and then back to Macon, where I attended Tatnall Square Academy. After graduation from high school at Central High School, I moved to Missouri to go to the College of the Ozarks, where I worked for the campus police department while I was getting my 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. When I graduated from College of the Ozarks, I accepted a job with the Branson, Missouri Police Department, where I served as a communications officer and attended the Basic Law Enforcement Academy at Drury College in Springfield, Missouri. In 1999, my father passed away, and I decided to move back home to Georgia, and I accepted a job at the Warner Robins Police Department in 2000. After moving home to Warner Robins, I worked for the Warner Robins Police Department as a patrol officer. I was a narcotics investigator for several years, was promoted to sergeant on patrol and was a patrol supervisor, and then finished my career at Warner Robins as a school resource officer assigned to Houston County High School. I accepted a job at the Georgia Public Safety Training Center as an instructor teaching the basic law enforcement training course, which is the course that leads to peace officer certification in the state of Georgia. I went back to college and attended Georgia College of State University and earned a master's degree in public administration, which I believe is directly relevant for the position of sheriff, dealing with budgets and personnel and leadership. In 2014, I had the opportunity to join the Houston County Sheriff's Office and come work for Sheriff Colin Talton. I was hired as a patrol deputy and was promoted to the traffic division, where I supervised the Highway Enforcement of Aggressive Traffic, or HEAT team, which was a Governor Office of Highway Safety Initiative grant-funded position where we targeted impaired drivers speeding violations, seatbelt violations, and distracted driving violations to help try to make the roadways of Houston County safer for our families. I went back to the drug unit with the sheriff's office and spent about 6 years as a drug investigator. And in 2022, was promoted to lieutenant as the assistant commander of the Criminal Investigations Division. And then in May of this year, I was promoted to captain, and I oversee the Criminal Investigations and Narcotics Unit for the Houston County Sheriff's Office. My vision for the Sheriff's Office is to continue the great legacy that Sheriff Talton has created here for us as employees of the Sheriff's Office, and also the safe environment that has been provided by the Sheriff's Office for our families to grow up, to work, to play, to visit right here in Houston County. Thank you guys for the opportunity to be here tonight. I think this is a great forum. It's been off to a great start, and I look forward to this evening.
Thank you guys for all your answers right there.
All right. Now we will move into the questions for the candidates for sheriff. What experience and knowledge do you have that will help you serve effectively in this office? You each have 2 minutes to respond. We will start with Mr. Moulton and then Mr. Harris.
I have 28 years of law enforcement experience. That's consecutive service since 1995. I'm actively employed by the Houston County Sheriff's Office. I'm familiar with its policies and procedures. And as a leader in the Criminal Investigations Division, I oversee the daily operations of our investigators who follow up on crimes and reports that are generated by our Patrol and Traffic Division. I believe that my leadership skills as an instructor, post-certified by the state of Georgia as a general instructor, a firearms instructor, a defensive tactics instructor, a driver training instructor. I'm a master instructor in the Georgia Resiliency Program, and I'm also an instructor in the Wright Academy, or Racial Intelligence and Training Education, out of Florida. I believe in diversity. I believe that the Sheriff's Office has a diverse population of employees, and I just want to continue that here at the Sheriff's Office.
Well, I'm a little bit different from what he believed. I want to make sure that our deputies are safe and the community is safe. I want to make sure that our senior citizen can go to sleep at night and rest in peace. I want program for our youth to get involved in. I think preventing crime is a lot better than let something happen. More jails. I'm concerned that the Houston County Sheriff Department in the last 51 years have never had a neighborhood watch program. I'm concerned that when children, young adults get in an argument inside of a building, that the police officer don't go outside with them to make sure that nothing further happen, no other activity happening in that situation. I'm concerned when people work on a job in 14 and 15 years and never get promoted. I'm concerned that the county jail have at least 35 vacancies right now. I'm concerned we got 5 cabinets full of with application and nobody can get hired when the qualification is only a GED in a high school and not having a felony on your criminal records. We got to communicate with our community, and we got to make sure that our community respect law enforcement, and we respect law enforcement. To gain respect in the community for law enforcement, we got to get out and socialize and be with the community. And it's time for a change. It's time for a change in Houston County in law enforcement, and I'm the change.
Thank you. Thank you both for those answers.
In addition to policing, obviously, the Sheriff's Office is responsible for the effective operation of the county jail and the safety of the detention officers and the inmates. What skills, abilities, and experience will you bring to this aspect of the sheriff's duties and responsibilities? And again, you'll have 2 minutes to respond. And we'll start with you, Mr. Harris, and then Mr. Moulton.
Thank you, Reverend. The county jail is a keeper of a crime that happened in Houston County until the judge decides they should get a bond if it's not a bondable offense. Houston County Jail, there's been at least 8 to 9 deaths in that jail in the last 20 years. We had an officer, detention officer, that got beat up in March. Nothing said about it. Nobody know anything about it. It's kept quiet. I'm concerned about the welfare of the officers in the jail, first of all. Then I'm concerned about the inmates in the jail. Now, I didn't work the jail very much when I was in patrol and in law enforcement, but I know how the jail should be run. We have got to do a better job of hiring people to the county jail. As I said earlier, there's 40-something down there. Starting salary is over $40,000. So, and all you need is GED in a high school. There's no reason when people have put application in and don't get hired, don't get a letter saying we're not gonna hire you, we don't like your application. We got to get away from this good old boy system of hiring people who we know and who somebody in the department recommend. If I'm elected sheriff of Houston County, you put an application in, we're gonna run the criminal background on you. You have all the education requirement, and I got a vacancy at the county jail. Since you mentioned county jail, we're gonna hire you. We're not gonna have our officer in the jail, understaffed, not getting promoted, and not feeling respected.
Mr. Bolton?
But, certain abilities that I would bring to the office of sheriff, one is going to be in training and education. As an instructor in the field of defensive tactics and use of force, the more educated the deputies are about force options, about different techniques dealing with use of force and defensive tactics, the safer the environment in the jail is going to be. The greatest gift that we were given by God is going to be our 2 ears and our mouth. Most of the time in conflict, if you listen to what people are saying and do a lot more listening than you do talking, you can often resolve conflicts without any kind of physical force at all. So the key for me is going to be to educate and train the detention deputies to be able to handle conflict without resorting to physical force unless it's absolutely necessary. As far as our detention center, it's a very safe environment now. There have been deaths in the detention center, heart related. The person would have died if they were sitting at home on their couch. We don't know when our heart's going to stop beating. So to try to say that the deaths that have occurred in the jail are because of mismanagement or lack of training or the deputies that are doing something wrong in the jail, that's just inaccurate. That doesn't happen in our facility. When there are issues that arise in the facility, they're addressed immediately by our internal affairs division that works directly in the jail facility. And that investigation is conducted and then forwarded up to the chief deputy who makes a decision on that situation. Mr. Harris talked about the lack of personnel or the vacancies that we have down there. At this time, we have about 30 vacancies in the jail. And the issue with staffing in the jail started during the COVID time. At a certain point in time, the federal government was actually paying people more in supplement money than the detention deputy was making at work. So that deputy could stay home and not work and make more money a month than what they were getting paid at the detention facility. We were in a critical manning staffing position about 2 years ago where we had over 60 vacancies. That has changed. We've hired over 30 people. It's actually more than that because as we've hired, we've had some leave or retire, but we're down to 30 people, and that's a tremendous stride, and it goes to the leadership in the jail. With Major Brian Blanton down there as our chief administrator in the jail, morale is up. I've had the opportunity to go and speak to the detention deputies down there that work there, and they absolutely love coming to work. It's a safe environment, but you have to remember some of Houston County's worst citizens reside in that jail. Most or some are violent offenders, and they don't like authority. So the deputies have to be well trained. They have to be educated. They have to be prepared to defend themselves or others while they're working in the jail. That's what this job is about.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. So we move to our next question. What are your plans to draw more qualified deputies to the force? And what are your plans to keep them? Again, you will each have 2 minutes. Let's start with Mr. Harris and then Mr. Moulton.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to advertise. We're going to do job fairs. I've never seen in the last 51 years any job fairs that the Houston County Sheriff Department did. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna find people who would make good law enforcement officer that can be trained and they're trainable, that we can put a good squad together to make that county jail what the county jail should be for all our relatives who have made a mistake, and they should have saved. They should be saved in the county jails. Although, as Mr. Moulton says, most of our worst offenders and worst people are the people in jail accused of a crime, not necessarily guilty, but they're accused of a crime, but they still should be saved. The jailers should be saved. The jailer will be saved. I don't know whether it's a distraction or is it fair to say that working 12 hours in a confined area is good. If you elect me sheriff, I'm going to get with the people who work those shifts and the staff and see is a 12-hour shift at a locked down facility is a good thing for them. We have just got to do better because it's good salary there. Now, our salary is not bad for us to have 30 or 40 vacancies at the county jail at $40,000+ a year, and all you need is a GED in a high school. Something wrong there. Something wrong. Now, what it is, I don't know, but I know something wrong because too many people out looking for jobs. Just last night, I was in Walmart, and the young man came up to me and said, "I'm gonna vote for you. I want a job." I said, "What kind of work? You a police officer?" He said, "No, I want a job. I got an application. I've had it for a year and a half. I have not heard anything." So it's something wrong. Job fairs, conference, newspaper ads. We're gonna get that county jail up to staff.
One of the big things with recruiting is in the last 50+ years, the sheriff's office has just not had to recruit. People have come in time after time again, dropping applications. There's always been a surplus of applications in the administrative offices of people that are wanting to get hired by the sheriff's office. And because people don't leave the sheriff's office unless it's through retirement or the occasional one that will leave to go and better themselves at a bigger or local, state, or federal agency, that's what we see leave. Most people don't leave the sheriff's office, and it's because of the way they're treated here. Here lately, the last 10 years, probably there's been a social divide between law enforcement and citizenry. There's been a trust issue between the citizens and law enforcement. Because of that, violence on officers has increased. And when you go into a college scenario and you talk to a group of college seniors and ask them who was willing to go and put their life on the line day in and day out for citizens making $40,000 a year, that pool slims down to where there's not that many people willing to come and do this job. And that transition has occurred within the last 10 years, 8 to 10 years. So recruiting is very difficult. It can be done. We actively recruit over Facebook and social media with the sheriff's office. We attend job fairs. We do have a neighborhood watch program with the sheriff's office, and we're actively in the communities talking to members of the citizens. And we're encouraging people that are interested in a career in law enforcement to come apply with us. If someone has an application in the sheriff's office that's been here a year and a half on file, it's likely that they're not a hireable candidate because we do have the openings. And if they were a qualified candidate, they would have a job within that 1.5 year period. So, you know, focusing on recruiting would be a very big priority for me.
Staying in the realm of hiring, I can hear the passion in both of your voices. What are some of the factors that you think are most important in hiring a new deputy? Mr. Moulton, you go first.
Yeah, yes, sir. And that's a great question because for me, the most important quality of a law enforcement officer is they have to be trustworthy. They cannot lie. If they say something, it has to be the truth. If they lose their credibility, they're not able to testify in court in criminal cases, and they become less than credible characters. And we can't have that in law enforcement. That is what creates the divide between law enforcement officers and the citizens and the population, is the lack of trust. So, you know, just having a GED and just being willing to work for $40,000 a year is simply not enough. You have to look at the character. You have to look at the moral compass of the individual, and they have to be a good fit for the sheriff's office. Our standard of excellence is very high here at the Houston County Sheriff's Office, and not just everybody can get a job here. It's a very challenging process to go through, but we hire the most qualified person. And when you see that, you look across the country at some issues that have happened in other law enforcement agencies where there's been a use of force issue, and you see a public uproar, rioting in the streets, buildings being burned down, people being hurt, property being damaged. You don't see that here in Houston County, and it's because of the public perception of the Houston County Sheriff's Office that we're going to do what's right when it's time to do it.
Mr. Harris?
Well, he said trust, and trust is very important, but I think communication is the most important thing. You ride down the street, you ride down Watson Boulevard or 247. You as a citizen wave at a deputy sheriff. He doesn't wave back. You don't be a trust there. You feel like that he's just ignoring you riding around in the taxpayer's car. You got to have communication. You see a group of kids outside playing, stop and talk to them. You go through the senior neighborhood, get out and know the seniors that live in that community. Let them know that you're concerned about them, that you're protecting them. Now, all over the country, there's been uproar, but all the uproar came from most of the time from officer bad behavior on part of the officer. And I'm not criticizing police officers because I was a police officer 27 years. But what I'm saying is, if you don't have communication and something goes wrong, the community don't know what to expect from you. The community have to have faith in you and trust in you and communication. Houston County Sheriff Department has been great, but there have been some great people working at the Houston County Sheriff Department too over the last 51 years. Billy Hunter, Willie Talton, Major Greg. It's been a lot of Billy Rape. It's been a lot of people that worked at the Sheriff Department who have made the Sheriff Department what it is. I think one great thing that we can do in this community, but to show the community that we are behind them, the law enforcement, the next building be made, name the building Willie Talton. You know, he deserves something for us for all the time and service he did for Houston County Sheriff Department.
Thank you very much.
All right, staying on the topic of deputies, what improvements can be made in training deputies, especially in the area of public relations, and given the multitude of situations they may encounter? This time we're going to start with Mr. Harris and then Mr. Moulton. And again, each of you will have 2 minutes to provide an answer.
I served in the United States Army in Germany, Fort Riley, Fort Benning for 2 years. I made Sergeant E5. NCO Academy, came out number 2 out of 51. I got automatic promoted. Played 7 Army baseball. In the military, if something goes wrong and you as a enlistment man or officer, doesn't matter. You get an Article 15 at the sheriff department or any law enforcement officer. If you don't get reprimanded, you might get dismissed. Well, I want to make the morale of the department better. If I am the sheriff, if something go wrong, whether you get that Article 15 or less than 10 days, I'm gonna have a committee of people out of the community to come in and make 2 recommendations. And of those 2 recommendations, the sheriff, which I would make the final decision. I want to get the community involved and get the department thinking that if something goes wrong, he just won't make a decision to get rid of me when really it's not a firing offense. Remember, deputies work at the pleasure of the sheriff. They don't work as on unions, because we don't have unions. They don't work at, they can appeal to appeal board. They work at the pleasure of the sheriff. Myself or Matt, we could clean house on January 1. That wouldn't be a wise decision to do, and it wouldn't be, but it have happened in Houston County. So I was, like I said earlier, I was get a committee and probably ministers, local people in the community to decide on what that offense should be. They make the recommendation. I have the final say so, but it wouldn't be no more than 10 days if we got that far.
For me with the deputies, it's going to come down to their mental health. And I've been afforded the opportunity to attend training through the Georgia Resiliency Program, where I went on and additionally obtained a Master Instructor certification in the Georgia Resiliency Program. And what we do in that program is focus on the officer's mental health. Imagine, if you will, being a police officer, and you get home at night after work, and you walk home and you get into your house and you end up in an argument with your spouse. You go to bed upset, you wake up in the morning, the argument's still going on, and you come back to work and get in your patrol car and go out here, and your first call for service is going to be something. What do you think your behavior is going to be like towards the citizen that you're going to deal with? Well, the answer to that question is your negative behavior, your anger towards your spouse is going to come out, and it's going to affect that call for service. Through RIGHT training, the racial intelligence and training education that I've attended and I'm an instructor in, we focus on the officer's individual health, mental health. So if we identify that we are angry or upset about it, we need to take time to cool down, to get our mindset in the right place. That way, when we go out and deal with somebody, we're dealing from a place of joy or happiness or willing to serve them. And it creates a better environment, a better transaction between the law enforcement officer and the citizen. So it would be training opportunities for deputies to go and attend that training. Governor Deal, former governor of Georgia, came up with a governor initiative training that deals specifically with de-escalation techniques for gaining compliance. We have that annual training every year. We teach our deputies every year de-escalation techniques for gaining compliance. And most of that comes through talking to people or listening to people and not hands-on approaches. Since we've done that training, use of force across the nation has gone down, especially here in Georgia. Use of force instances have gone down because we've got deputies and police officers now across the state that are actually taking time to talk to people and listening to what they have to say, and they're able to resolve conflict without using physical force. So training is the key.
With that in mind, as a sheriff, you're more of a chief executive. Yes, you have the experience, but you're an executive who has to deal with labor and management issues and labor relations and administering discipline. If elected, how will you ensure fair, appropriate, and timely disciplinary actions are taken? Mr. Moulton, you go first, and then Mr. Harrison. Of course, we're still under the 2-minute limit.
Right, through an updated policy manual provided to the deputies, where they know where they stand and they know what's expected of them. The fairness standard that we've had here at the sheriff's office is not one that's ever been in conflict. And when deputies do things that are in violation of our policy or in violations of state law, that investigation is conducted immediately, and the resolution is forwarded to the chief deputy's office, where a decision is made in most cases within 2 weeks. That investigation is transparent, and the deputy is awarded or is afforded due process in that situation. And I don't think there's an issue with the way the sheriff's office has conducted internal affairs investigations dealing with misconduct or anything of that nature. And I would continue doing things the way we're doing them now.
Mr. Harris?
Well, I haven't seen the new manual that they have out, so I can't comment on the new manual. But mental health and alcohol, I will make sure one thing, that we got mental health counselor in the county jail. I hope the manual said they do have one in there. I haven't seen it, but we do need mental health in the county jail, and we need alcohol counseling in the county jail, because a lot of these people are repeaters, and we need to be able to come and work with them and get them on the right feet, make them feel more responsible. Now, I know a lot of this come from a lot of things that you want to do. The county commissioners have got to approve the money. But our community is bigger than any amount of money, and the human life is even more important. So I would make sure that we are serving the inmates in the county jail. When I say serving them, make sure that they are safe and make sure they are receiving mental health.
Well, I got one quick follow-up because of something that was said a little earlier, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on this point. Are Houston County deputies within a union, or are they non-union employees?
Non-union employees.
That's correct. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Harris.
Matt, I don't know of no law enforcement agency in the South that are unionized. Do you?
No, not that I'm aware of. And the sheriff's office is not a member. We don't have a union. We do have a police benevolent association, otherwise known as PBA. And deputies do belong to the police benevolent association. And what that will do is, if I'm involved in a use of force situation, or I have a disciplinary action that's taken against me for something that I may have done, as a member of PBA, I can contact the PBA hotline, and an attorney, a local attorney, can be appointed at the discretion of the PBA board to assist me in that proceeding, whether it be, let's just an example, an officer involved shooting. If I go out here tonight at work and I'm involved in a shooting situation, I can contact the Police Benevolent Association and speak to their director, who will appoint an attorney to my case to come in and represent me in the case, and make sure that due process is afforded to me. It's not a union, but we do have that association that looks out for officers.
Thank you.
All right. So both of you mentioned mental health in your previous answer or response. So, and we also have seen in the news a lot of situations involving mental health. Do you know if there are any current policies in place to handle these types of situations? And do you plan to implement any policies that would help in these types of situations? Mr. Harris, you will start, and then Mr. Moulton. And again, we're under the 2-minute restriction.
I don't know of any policy that the sheriff department have for mental health and alcohol. Don't leave alcohol out either. If it's not, that'll be one of my pet projects. I mean, real project, not a pet, but a real project to start would be mental health and alcohol counseling. We got to have it in today's society. Mental health plays a great part in a lot of our situations. Matt used the example, which was a great example. Officer come home from a hard day at work. Some sergeant gave him a hard time. He come home, the wife ain't cooked dinner, for example, and they have an argument. He get upset. Get up the next morning, got the same problem. and the innocent citizen, taxpayer of Houston County take his abuse. It might be a good officer, never had a write-up of anything, but the situation got out of hand because of mental health problems. I want my officers to be able to say if something wrong, to be able to call in and say, I gotta be out today, I'm sick. We want to protect the officer 110%, and we want to take the public 110%. And if I'm elected sheriff, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have open door policy. If something going wrong in the neighborhood, officer behaving, that you'll be able to come in and talk to me or some of the high ranking officers at the sheriff department and get the problem solved and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, we do have policies and procedures in place, especially in our detention center. When inmates or when people are arrested by a deputy and they're taken to the Houston County Detention Center, they go through a medical screening during intake. And if the nurse believes that the person is a danger to themselves or others, then they will refuse acceptance into intake at the detention center. In that case, the person would be referred to medical. So the deputy would transport them to a local receiving facility, whether it be the Perry Hospital emergency room or Houston Medical up in Warner Robins. And a psychiatric evaluation will be conducted on that individual. In most cases, when that happens, typically a 1013 order may be signed, and the person would be transported into a placement facility for psychiatric care. If they do have psychiatric issues or mental health issues while they're in our facility, excuse me, while they do have a mental health issue while they're in our facility, we have medical staff, trained medical personnel in the detention center, and they administer medication to those people. We, one of the things we deal with is mental health a lot. And when some of the people are out in the community, they're not taking their medication. They don't have access to their medication. So they don't take it, and their mental health suffers for it. When they come into our facility, they are given that medication as prescribed at the correct times, and they become model inmates, model citizens in our detention center. The problem is when they make bond or when they satisfy their sentence or disposition of their case and they're released back to society, they don't have a medical person in the detention center administering their medication anymore. They stop getting the medication, they stop taking the medication, and it's just a revolving cycle with their mental health issues. So we do have those procedures in place at the sheriff's office, and there would be nothing to change there. It's already in place and it's very effective.
Do you think a nurse will be the right person who don't have mental health training to be able to decide whether that person is sick or not, or mentally hurt?
Yeah, they're trained professionals in the detention center, and they have an assessment checklist that they go through. And if the person doesn't meet the criteria to be taken into the detention center, then they refuse acceptance and they're transported to the hospital.
Very well. When we're talking about mental health, we know that a lot of the changes in the state of Georgia over the last 30 years with the reduction in the amount of mental health services that are available has contributed to a lot of people who would formerly have safer spaces and places to live being on the streets. And some of that has been part of what we see as an increase in a volume number of property crimes, violent crimes. What are your plans to help combat this increase in gun violence and crime in general for the county? Mr. Bolton, you first, and then you, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, it goes back to the root issue, like you said, Dr. Vining, of mental health. I can remember in my early days at the Warner Robins Police Department, we had a citizen of Warner Robins who had mental health issues. And his thing to do would be go stand in the intersection of North Davis, South Davis, Watson Boulevard, the big major four-way intersection on the east end of town. Stand in the middle of the intersection, and he would direct traffic. On occasions, I remember a specific call I got dispatched to. The city of Warner Robins had just purchased its first ladder truck, fire truck. and the firefighters had just picked the truck up and had been down at City Hall showing it to Mayor Walker. After he saw it, they were driving it out to Station 6 where it's housed. And as they approached the intersection, this individual I'm talking about had a spark plug in his hand, and he threw it at the brand new fire truck and shattered the window. All right, deputy or officers responded to the scene, and in an attempt to arrest this individual, a physical altercation occurred, and it took multiple officers to get the person in custody. We take him to jail, and in all honesty, what is that going to solve? We're not getting to the root issue of the mental health issue. So he's going to go to jail on a misdemeanor offense. He's going to post bond. And before the paperwork is done by the police officers, that individual is back up out on the road doing the exact same thing all over again. So the mental health is what we need to focus on here in the state of Georgia. We've had several hospitals that have been closed, and there's just not been an emphasis put on mental health. And I think if we get back to taking care of that, it's going to keep those people out of our county jail.
Ms. Harris?
I don't know whether or not Houston County is doing this, but we will do it. I don't know that we have an agency that we can call on these mental health cases and an expert come out and take care of the situation, because there was a shooting a couple years ago where the SWAT team shot an individual, and the uncle saying if I had to talk to him, I could have talked him out of the house. We have got to do the thing in the right manner to stop all this violent crime. We had a house that gets shot up Labor Day weekend. One lady is paralyzed permanent from that same house shooting. We say in Houston County, we got gangs, young men gangs, but we can't name nobody. I talked to several seniors at all 5-hour high school. They say we got some guys who dress like they want to be gang members. They're not doing anything. I would know within 30 days who are the gang members, and I'm gonna find something for them to do. I'm gonna start a junior deputy program. We got to be proactive toward keeping our kids with the violent crime, breaking in people's cars, stealing guns, and we got to educate the community better that don't leave your gun in the car. Secure your gun so nobody won't lose their life. It's gonna take a giant effort from everybody in the community, from Wednesday night to Sunday morning and doing Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. We have got to work to make our community safe like it used to be. We're gonna do tutoring. The sad thing I heard from a principal at Northside Middle School at the middle school football game the other day. And I don't know who this deputy is, but I want to congratulate him. He took his own personal money and probably ain't making that much, but he took his own money, bought this kid a sports coat, started mentoring this kid. And the principal said that's the best thing he's seen in his 25 years of teaching. Well, we got a lot of organizations here in Houston County and the state of Georgia, but I'm talking about Houston County. We got the 100 Million Blacks that we can get involved in mentoring people. We got the Deltas. Y'all do that great scholarship fund every year. There's a lot of organizations besides those two organizations that are willing to help. The pastors, we got to find some grant money. There'll be some grant money out there somewhere where we can tutor these kids, make them better. Our kids are only as good as we are, and our kids are only as good as we teach them to be better citizens and be a better person. So I am a people person. I want people to come and let's work together to make our county better.
Thank you so much for your answers.
All right. Do you all have any plans to engage the citizens and organizations in the county with any programs to help combat violent crime? Mr. Harris, we'll start with you, and then Mr. Moulton.
Well, I think I already said it. What I think, we're going to form a junior deputy program, midnight basketball, get the organization in the community to work with the sheriff department and the junior deputy program to do something for kids. I remember 12 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than 12. I got Ferguson Bus Line. I got the great Cal Daniels from Warner Robin, who played professional baseball for the Dodgers and Cincinnati Red. He gave me 50 tickets to the Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers on a Sunday night, prime time. Darryl Strawberry came over and talked to the 50 kids from Warner Robin, Georgia, off Vicky Lynn, Sunstead, Reed Street, and I was seeing a tremendous growth in those kids. I mean, when I say they're grown men now, one was a professional football player, played last year with the Houston Oilers, the Texans. And we just got to put more emphasis on our kids rather than building jails. There's so many guys in this community who made Warner Robin what it is. We had to top everything for many years, top football team, all that. All our kids worked hard. Older guys who were pillars of this community, Marvin Roberts, Willie Stubbs, they worked hard to make Warner Robin what it was. Mr. Lewis, I can't leave Clark Lewis out. He gave the black community, Jody Town at the time, Memorial Park. And on weekend, everybody was at Memorial Park, watching baseball, cooking out, just having a good time. We didn't have all this violent crime. And I think we can be back there now where kids ain't riding around with guns in the car, shooting at houses, if we work together and we put the community first over everything else. And we could be the community that Warner Robin, the international city, have always been.
Yeah, there are programs that exist now here in Houston County. There's an anti-bullying campaign that Willie Raines does. He goes into local schools and he talks to the students about bullying. He talks to them about choices and consequences. And he's very effective in what he does. Getting behind Willie Raines to push that into the school system. He's already in negotiations with the Board of Education about going into every school in Houston County and teaching his consequences program. I've talked to several local pastors, and one of the general consensuses that we have discussed is it's not necessarily a problem with the kids. The kids are doing what kids do when there's no leadership from parents. So some of the pastors and I have talked about coming up with a training program where we bring parents in, young parents, and we teach them how to be parents and not best friends or close acquaintances of their children. But we are trying to do things like that is going to educate the parents and how to raise productive citizens as children. I've talked to a few doctors in the area and looking at bringing in a police athletic league. I think the city of Warner Robins and the city of Perry does a fantastic job with their recreation departments. If we bring in a police athletic league, it's not a new program. It's nothing like that. It's taking law enforcement officers, and they're going to go into those programs and serve as mentors to the young kids that are playing sports already here in Houston County. The deputy that Mr. Harris was talking about is Darius Ingram. He's assigned to Northside Middle School, and he created a program on his own several years ago out of his own pocket called Boys to Gentlemen. And he takes young men and he mentors them throughout the school year. And out of his own pocket, he purchases them a sport coat. And on certain days of the week, they come in dressed up with their sport coat on. It raises their morale. Their grades have come up. Their behavior has improved in the school system. We don't need a deputy funding that out of his own pocket. That's something that we as a sheriff's office, we as a county government could take under our belt and continue and grow what he does. The Houston County Board of Education switched up the way they did school resource officers a couple years ago. And now the Houston County Sheriff's Office is responsible for all the school resource officers in the school system. We went from 3 deputies 3 years ago to now we have 23 deputies. Those deputies can go into the schools now and they can interact with at-risk youth, and they can teach the Choices and Consequences program with Willie Raines, and we can help the children make a better decision about what they're going to do. I saw an illustration one time, and it was a picture of a jail cell with a pistol right in the middle of the picture. And the caption of that photograph was, if they knew this is where they were going to spend the rest of their life, would they pull the trigger? What do you think about that? I think that image alone speaks volumes, and that's what we're going to have to do to get that message out. It's not going to be the responsibility of the sheriff's office to raise the children in Houston County. It's the parents' responsibility, but we're going to help the parents through community partnerships with our churches, our recreation league, our coaches, and other deputies that are willing to put time and effort into mentoring young people.
Gentlemen, the things that you've been sharing with us have been compelling. We appreciate all that you've shared. We're going to move to our closing comments, and if you will, in within 1 minute, make your closing argument to the people who are listening as to why they should vote for you. We'll start with you, Mr. Harris, and then you, Mr. Moulton.
You should vote for me because I'm a Houston County man. I grew up here in Houston County. I live here all my life. I have worked hard in this community, and I see my community not being where it should be. Violent crime is sky high. Mental health is non-existent. And I want to help our children, and I want to make sure our seniors are safe.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moulton?
Yeah, I'm going to ask for your vote tonight because I'm a member of Southside Baptist Church. I'm a member of a men's group that meet on Wednesday night. One of the things that we pray for weekly is godly leadership in government. As a Christian, as a strong believer of my faith, I believe that my heart is in the right place. I believe I've been called to serve the citizens of Houston County as their sheriff. I will apply biblical principles to the office of sheriff. If you go and take some time and read 1 Corinthians chapter 12, begin with verse 12, where it talks about unity and diversity of the body, that is applicable to our population. And we all belong to Houston County. It doesn't matter what race we are, what sex we are. We're all one body. And just because the hand can't do what the foot can do doesn't mean the hand is not important. So take some time and read that verse. And and vote for me for your sheriff of Houston County. Thank you.
Thank you both for being a part of tonight's forum. Let's now transition to hearing from our candidates for Houston County Superior Court Clerk. Let's meet our candidates. We'll start with Ms. Angela Anderson and then Ms. Terry Childers. You will each have 2 minutes to give an opening statement.
I am Angela Anderson. I was born and raised in Houston County. I have 2 daughters and a granddaughter. I graduated from Northside High School, and I completed the paralegal program at Central Georgia Tech. I am a board member of Family Promise, and it is an organization that assists homeless families in Houston County. In 2021, I received the Liberty Bell Award. And the Liberty Bell is a prestigious award that is given by the Houston County Bar Association to non-lawyers for their significant contribution to the legal community. I have 28 years experience in the Houston County court system. I first began as a crime victim advocate for juvenile, state, and superior court. Then I became a legal assistant for the Houston County DA's office. And for the past 17 years, I have been the judicial assistant for Catherine Lumsden. She's a Superior Court judge.
Hi, I'm Terry Childers, born and raised in Houston County. I'm a graduate of Warner Robins High School. I have 2 sons and 1 grandbaby and 1 on the way. And I've worked in the Superior Court Clerk's office for the past 31 years. I started out as a deputy clerk in the civil department. I worked there for 25 years, and then I moved up to the administrative assistant position, which was mainly criminal court. And now I'm the chief deputy clerk, which is right under our current Superior Court clerk, Carolyn Sullivan, who is retiring after 50 years. And that's why I'm running to take on her position as your next clerk of Superior Court.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being with us. Many people don't really know what this office entails. They know there's a clerk of the Superior Court, but they're not quite sure what the services are that are provided. Do you have plans to make the public more aware of the services you provide in the clerk's office? And Ms. Childers, you go first, and then Ms. Anderson.
Well, we do have a website that is informative and user-friendly. All the links that you need are on the website. It's under the HoustonCountyGA.gov website under Government and Superior Court Clerk. The link to all the real estate records are there. You can go and look at any of your land records. Same for civil, criminal. We have a link to a case management system where you can go and look up your cases. But we consist of 3 offices. We have real estate, like I said, records all the land records. We do passports. We do notaries. Of course, we have the criminal division. It's all criminal court work. And then we have the civil department, which is civil and domestic filings, which covers a large area of, anything from divorces to adoptions to child support. The list goes on.
Ms. Anderson, your plans to make the public more aware of services that the clerk's office provides?
Well, my plans are to be in the community more. You were right. There are a lot of people, and as I've been on this campaign trail, I have learned that a lot of people have no idea what the clerk's office does. We are the record keeper for what I say felony court, and that's all felony criminal records. We do also take care of the divorces, adoptions, custodies. We can also put your DD 214 on file. And as Ms. Childers explained, the list goes on. I would like to attend community events so that the community can learn about services that we offer on a continuous basis. The website needs revamping. If you go to the website, there's nothing really there. There's a lot that needs to be done with that website. And I would also like to implement social media sites. And with those social media pages, I would like to continue to show the community the services that we offer and also keep them up to date with upcoming events or, the latest happenings within the clerk's office. For example, I plan to implement Passport Saturdays. So putting that out on the social media pages, on the website, and wherever I can, get it out so that the community will know. We attend community events. We can let them know that on, this particular Saturday, you can come in and get your passport. You don't have to worry about taking off work.
Thank you. Thank you both very much.
Do you have plans to streamline or make more services convenient to the public who often work during the same hours as the clerk's office is open? We'll start with Ms. Anderson and then you, Ms. Childers. You have 2 minutes.
Well, as I just stated, the Passport Saturday is one that I want to implement. There are a lot of people that I've talked to as I've been on the campaign trail. And number one, they didn't know the clerk's office did the passports. And number two, a lot of them can't get there. And if it's a family affair, they also have to go and get the kids out. So by me offering Passport Saturday, that will allow them to come. They don't have to take the kids out of school. They don't have to take time off of work. And this is not something that the commissioners have to pay money for. Me revamping the website is not something that the commissioners have to spend money for. And I have also agreed, if I need to, I will work on the website myself. That's not an issue. I think it's something that's very important that needs to be handled. Since last year, I've been talking about contactless pay for the jurors. There is no reason why the jurors should be paid late. If you've done your service, and it's the end of the jury trial, then if we have the contactless cards, your pay is immediately available. So there's no need to have to worry about printing checks, sending out checks, getting checks back because the mailing address is no longer valid. So those are a few of some of the things that I want to do.
As far as the Passport Saturday, it would cost the county. It would cost the electricity. We would have to have pay security overtime to open the building. The employees would have to be paid overtime. And honestly, if you prepare your passport application online and have it all ready, you come in and it takes 10 minutes. And, you can come on your lunch hour. You can come when the kids get out of school. It doesn't take that long if you go ahead and prepare ahead of time. And, but yeah, just in the past, I did the numbers, January through August, we did 2,500 passports. And so that's average at about 10 a day. So we do a lot. And as well, the post office is open on Saturday. You can do your passport there too. As far as the jury management system, we have already discussed that. It's in the works. Everything will be done online. There will be jurors will be paid by debit card. We can load their debit card when they check in, which will save money as far as ordering checks, printing the checks, mailing the checks, if we can't give them to them, before they leave. And we were hoping to get that going soon, but we have a case management system that is still being worked on, and that kind of takes priority right now. So it's on the back burner, but it is coming, which is going to be a tremendous help.
Can I just add? Can I do that?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, on the Passport Saturday, as far as paying employees, I don't need to pay employees. I myself will work the Passport Saturday. I've already said that I would do that. And my chief would also work along with me so that the employees don't have to use up their Saturday working. I don't mind doing that. As far as electricity, I don't see that would be an option or a problem for that short period of time. And I've already talked to the lieutenant at the courthouse. And as far as paying deputies, there are fees that come along with paying for your passport. So if I need to pay the deputies out of that fund, then I will do so. But otherwise, that is also covered as well. So there won't be any issues.
Okay. Thank you, ladies, for your response.
As we've been running a little long here, we're going to move on to a point where we hear from each of you and your compelling closing argument about why we should consider you as the Superior Court clerk. And then we will move into a session, if I'm understanding my notes right, of question and answers after your closing arguments with all of the candidates. And so we will start with you, Ms. Childers, you first, and then Ms. Anderson, They'll allow you time to make your final closing statement about why should we put our confidence and trust in you to handle the Superior Court clerk position.
Thank you. Well, like I said, I've actually worked in the Superior Court clerk's office for 31 years. I have the knowledge. I've not only worked in one office, I've had 3 different positions that covered, other areas of the office. With me being in the office, I worked under Carolyn Sullivan, all these years, and, I've learned a lot from her over these years. And I've also recently took the test to become a passport acceptance agent, so I can also assist the ladies in the real estate department in the passport application process. This is all I've ever done. I love my job. I love my coworkers, and I couldn't think of doing anything else. This is what I want to do. I want to take over from a wonderful lady who's done a wonderful job with this office. It's like I said, it's a great office, and I want to continue to work there and just do the best I can and even better. Whatever I can do to make it better, I will do. And I appreciate your vote.
Ms. Sanders.
As I stated before, I do have 28 years experience. And with my experience, I have been a part of the major parts of the court system, and that being the judicial side and also the DA side. I know what is expected of the clerk's office, and I know what we aren't getting. So I feel that I am more experienced and I am ready to lead. I just want to start by saying this race isn't about Republicans or Democrats. It's about supporting all the citizens of Houston County. I have been working hard daily, and from the beginning of this campaign, I have made sure that I have completed all the necessary documents and that I have also met every required deadline. This is important. And as your next Superior Court clerk, I plan on continuing to do the same. I am experienced and I am ready to lead on day one. I ask for your support. I ask for your vote. Now, early voting starts October 15th and ends on November 1st. You can reach me on all social media at Anderson, the number 4 clerk, or my website at www.andersonforclerk.com. And I just want to let you know that I am the change that we need, and I am the leadership that you deserve.
Ladies, thank you both so very much. The fact that you're even running for office is a testament to your care and concern for all the citizens of the community. And so we appreciate you putting and sacrificing your life and your time out there to serve the community. Ms. Todd.
All right. Thank you. So at this time, we will bring all the candidates back in so that we can have questions from the audience. All right. So we have a question for the candidates running for sheriff from the audience. And the question is the RIT training required of all officers and deputies that Matt took in Florida?
It's not a required training. However, as an instructor in the right program, and there's a couple of instructors with the Perry Police Department that could collaborate with us to further that training into the sheriff's office. What I did was take parts of that training and have implemented it in other classes that I teach here at the sheriff's office. So I bring a lot of the knowledge from that course back to some of the training that we already do. But it was just tremendous training. When you focus on yourself and you make sure you're in the right state of mind when you go out here and deal with the public, then that interaction is going to be positive more times than it's not. If you're disregard your own mental health and you have anger issues or things beyond our control that we're just frustrated with, you're going to convey that in that interaction. It's going to be a negative interaction more times than not. So yeah, I think it's important to have that training, and that's definitely something that we'll be pushing out to all of the deputies. I don't know that it'll be a required course, but it's definitely going to be made available to the deputies.
Thank you. And we have one other question for the sheriff candidates. How do you plan to address recidivism in the county?
One of the things that I've talked an extent with is some jurisdictions have what they refer to as a drug court. I don't know if you guys remember Otis Nixon. He was a center fielder for the Atlanta Braves back in the 90s. He also played with several other teams. He's an ambassador in Georgia for the drug court program. And looking at bringing that here, we would have to collaborate with the district attorney's office and the superior court clerk. But first-time offenders on nonviolent drug crimes, do they belong in prison? And that's the question that you have to answer with this, whether or not it would be an effective means to possibly have a diversion program in place where if someone comes in with a first-time offense that's a nonviolent crime that is drug-related, we could put them through mental health counseling. We could put them through drug and alcohol counseling. And if they successfully complete that program, then they don't get a felony conviction on their record. So that keeps them out of jail. Now, of course, dealing with the recidivism, they're going to have to want to change themselves. It doesn't matter how bad you or I want to change someone. If they don't want that change themselves, they're not going to do it. And when they get out of jail or when they get out of prison, they're going to go back to the lifestyle that they know. And when that happens, we just have to make the criminal cases that we can against them and then let the courts handle that.
Thank you. And we have one other question from the audience. With the reputation that law enforcement as a whole has gained over the years, what are your views on the law enforcement transparency and accountability, and how do you intend to build trust within the community?
Through open lines of communication. That's one thing Sheriff Talton's taught me well. As our sheriff of Houston County for almost now 52 years, he's had an open door policy. If you have interaction with a deputy and you don't like the way that interaction goes, you can drive up to the sheriff's office and walk in and sit down at the sheriff's desk, and you can discuss your concerns with the sheriff. My plan is to continue that open door policy. And again, I keep going back to training, but training is so important in this. You think about, I could be on my best behavior and make a traffic stop and get nothing but disrespect from the violator. And it's not because of anything that I did to that person, but it could be because of an encounter that they had with another officer at another time during their life. So that negative encounter now feeds off onto the encounter I have with them. And if I don't know how to handle that and I don't know how to communicate with them, it could create a negative encounter between me and that person. I've worked very hard in my career. I've attended so many classes that deal with the people and how to communicate with them and how to earn trust and respect from that. That I believe being able to convey my vision down the line at the sheriff's office, we're going to produce more deputies that think that way, and their focus is going to be on their well-being and then conveying positive interactions with the citizens as they come in contact with them.
Thank you. Okay, candidates, we really appreciate you all. I checked to see if there are any questions for the Superior Court clerks. We do not have any questions from the audience. So again, thank you so much. So now we will transition to our voter education portion of the forum tonight, where we will discuss some of the important topics of the election, what and how they can affect the average voter. And I would like to introduce our panel for the rest of the forum, Ms. Fanika Miller and Erica Williams. In addition to Reverend Vinings, we have Ms. Erica and Fanika. Thank you. At this time, I will introduce Fanika Miller. Fanika is a respected figure in our social impact, leadership, and entrepreneurship, amassing over 3 decades of experience in political, private sector, and government spheres. She currently serves as the National Field of Co-Director for Black Voters Matters Fund, guiding and supporting the teams in Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, and leading the healthcare and environmental justice outreach for organizations. Fanika holds an MBA from Wesleyan College and a bachelor's degree in political science from the Fort Valley State University. She's earned executive certifications in nonprofit entrepreneurial leadership and power, innovative, and leadership, further enriching the diversity of her skill sets. Welcome, Ms. Fanika.
Thank
We
y'all
also
for having me.
thank you. We also have attorney Williams. She's originally from Shaker Heights, Ohio. She's a graduate of Hathaway Brown School, a small independent all girls school in Cleveland, Ohio. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts from Miami University in 1997, where she majored in political science and Black World Studies. She is a 2001 graduate of the University of Dayton School of Law, where she received Cali Awards in Gender and the Law and for her work in the University of Dayton Law Clinic. She also holds a Master's of Art in Applied Behavior Science from Wright State University. Attorney Williams began her legal career working as a juvenile prosecutor for the Houston County District Attorney's Office in 2002. She remained with the Houston County District's Attorney Office for over 18 years, handling all manners of cases, including serious violent felonies, elderly and child abuse, and traffic cases. She was the first Black woman to serve as president of Houston County Bar Association. In 2011, she was appointed as Chief Assistant District Attorney for Houston Judicial Circuit, becoming the first Black woman to hold that position. She is a recipient of the Justice Benham Award for Community Service, an award given by State Bar of Georgia acknowledging services to the community outside of the practice of law. She was also recognized on the floor of both Georgia House Representatives and State Senate with resolution acknowledging her work and the protection of victims of elderly abuse. In 2020, she ran for district attorney, becoming the first Black woman to win the Democratic nomination and appear on the ballot for the office. After leaving the district attorney's office in 2020, she joined the Williams Law Group, where she served as a juvenile court judge pro tem. In 2003, she returned to full-time prosecution when she joined the Houston County Office of Solicitors General, where she has been appointed Chief Assistant Solicitors General. Attorney Erica Williams is a lifetime member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Epsilon Omega chapter. She is also a member of the Macon chapter of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated and Georgia Association of Black Women's Attorney. All right, so let's kick off this discussion with Project 2025. I'll start by providing you with how Project 2025 defines its mission. Project 2025 is a comprehensive plan led by the Heritage Foundation. The plan was published in 2023, which means it's been in works for years prior to now. To some, the plan is not new, and to others, some are just hearing of the plan. Project 2025 has 4 principles. You have the policy, which provides recommendation to reshape the existing government system; personnel, which focus on creating network opportunities for individuals pursuing politics that will be a way forward to grooming like-minded individuals and becoming policymakers. The third principle is training, which is designed to prepare and equip individuals who may potentially serve in a future conservative administration role through the Presidential Academy. And the fourth principle is the playbook, which serves as a guide to put policies from Project 2025's mandate for leadership into action within the first 180 days of the next administration. So, Fanika, we have seen bits and pieces all over the internet, all in the news. People are talking about Project 2025. So, why is this subject in the news so much? And Reverend Vinings and Erica, please feel free to jump in on this conversation.
Thank you for that question, Laprelle. It's in the news so much because it is serving to, or it seeks to destroy American democracy. It seeks to take away our freedoms and the rights. It seeks to create an unsafe society. It will ostracize us from the world, demolish American legacy and future. So, I mean, there are a myriad of ways that this Project 2025, this plan, this policy prescriptive is harmful to our country. And I think that folks are waking up to the fact that not only do elections have consequences, the folks who are appointed to implement such things, folks who serve in administrations who come up with policies such as project or playbooks like Project 2025 are seeking to do immediate and immense harm on our communities and our direct quality of life.
I think one of the things that is really important, and one of the reasons why it's in the media so much, is that I think a lot of people are really surprised that they would put it in writing, what their plans to do. But I think you have to look back at why they put Project 2025 the way that it was. So if you go back to the 2016 election, a lot of America was surprised at the results. People were very shocked that President Trump won. And Project 2025, as it is now, is a direct result to how he attempted to govern when he was president in 2016. So because they weren't even sure that he was really going to win, they weren't ready day one. And I'm not making this up. The creators of Project 2025 have said this themselves. Since they weren't ready day one, they wanted to come up with a handbook so that when he gets reelected, or if he were to get reelected, that they would be able to implement the things that they couldn't do because our system of government is set up in a way that we have more checks and balances now. And Project 2025, one of the things that it seeks to do is to create more power for the executive branch so that, for instance, if you remember when Trump was president, he had a very difficult time getting department heads through because they have to be voted on. And so one of the things Project 2025 seeks to do is take that away from the legislative branch and put the more power in the executive branch so that you can have a president who can install yes men or yes women without there being any pushback from our legislative branch. So that is one of the reasons why it's very important for people to be aware of the potential. This is what they would like to do should that person be reelected this November.
The Project 2025 in its development, and it reminds me of a think tank group that was formed during the Clinton era, which was headed up by who had formerly been on the administration of Presidents Reagan and Bush, by Dick Cheney. And they came up with a strategy and a conservative philosophy about how to impact America and what we need to do if we were to go to war in the Middle East with countries like Iraq and therefore. So then at the conclusion of the Clinton era, Dick Cheney's now the vice president. And this is when he was had left from private enterprise, and the company that he was an executive with was Halliburton. And again, they funded this think tank. So once we had 9/11 and the attacks that came, all of the strategies and plans that they had in place were what happened. Where I'm going with this is that Project 25, just like many other strategies like this, are not things that, like you said earlier, just pop up. They're not as knee-jerk a reaction as sometimes we like to think they are. They are well thought out, well planned, and well executed. The ideal on this one was what to do in the second term, but they didn't expect President Trump to win. So they didn't expect him to lose, but he lost. So that didn't stop the planning. The reality of it is this, is that we're looking at some things to Ms. Williams, what you said about how they would be appointing, but now they're not just talking about appointing positions at the very top. It's taking those appointments and putting it on all levels. And I know a lot of employees are saying, well, but we got a union. Well, it's also one of the philosophies of Project 2025 to break unions on every level.
Okay. So as you mentioned unions, how would Project 2025 affect citizens who work at plants like Frito-Lay, Bluebird, Anchor Glass, or any company or plant that has a union?
Well, initially, if you can break the unions that the federal government is working with, now you got a playbook on how that can be duplicated in corporate, and that will be played out. You'll find people locating in more at-will states where there are non-union employees, and that's another methodology for breaking unions.
Thank you. All right. Considering Warner Robins' significant veterans population, what are the implications of Project 2025 for veterans benefits? And furthermore, how will Project 2025 impact people's Social Security benefits?
So I don't think there's a plan to necessarily, through Project 2025, get rid of people's Social Security benefits. The implementation is all in how those that are supporting Project 2025 don't like the size of the federal government. So their goal is to make government smaller, which, as you can see, just looking at what's going on with the hurricanes right now, even though people think that government is massive, it takes a lot of different moving parts in order for people to get their benefits. So the same thing would be, for Social Security Administration. If your plan is just you think the government is bloated, so you want to make the government smaller, then that's going to make it more difficult for people to get the benefits that they earn. So they may not say, like in Project 25, okay, well, we're going to get rid of giving people Social Security. They're not going to do that, but it will become more difficult. It will become more time consuming, and that would extend veterans benefits as well.
If I can add, Laprelle, it also will allow states to opt out of federal labor laws. Employers can stop paying overtime, make it harder for people to join unions. It will require 95% of federal contractors to be U.S. citizens, which would cause massive layoffs, and strip other protections, even against child labor rights. You mentioned veterans, but the civil servants who work at Robins Air Force Base. There is a plan in place, or a provision that would strip civil servants of their employment and then hire political appointees or folks who agree with administrations, right? And so you think about something that could potentially bankrupt the entire Middle Georgia regional ecosystem, right? Many of our family members and our friends who are employed as civil servants on the base. And so this has long and far-reaching implications. There is no time that the government of our size, and for an economy of our size, they say make it so small you can drown it in a bathtub. It is not going to happen. We've got to have visionary leadership, and we also have to position ourselves to be on the offensive versus the defensive. Where is our Project 2030? Where are the think tanks who are within the progressive ecosystem? and how are we holding those folks to account in order to make sure that we implement some of these same things.
This whole idea of government efficiency that they're talking about, that's the catch-all phrase for we want to get rid of whole departments: Department of Justice, Department of Education, the departments that oversee the environmental issues, and in other words, everything that puts regulations and controls on those who are the richest in society and make things harder for the middle class and the poor.
Okay. So you mentioned the Department of Education. How will the plan affect the local school system?
Well, the plan is, again, to let the state, to get the federal government out of education and let the states handle it. But if you look at what some of these states are doing, they are doing things that are patently unconstitutional. If you look at the state of Oklahoma, where they're getting ready to spend almost $3 million to purchase Bibles for every student in that school district, and they're and the federal government controls, often in these situations, they control the purse strings. So some of the stuff that the state governments want to do, they can't do because the feds will come in and tap on the shoulder and say, we're going to take your funding if you are not, if you're treating children inequitably or unfairly, or if you're discriminating. Everything is they're trying to dial back. They are trying to dial back the gains that we have made. The call is now, let the states handle it. Let the states handle it. And if we go back to letting the states handle it, we could end up back with segregation because the states were handling and allowing for segregation of our schools.
It's like the old adage that says, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And that's when you leave it up to the states, within the states, leave in force the rules of the people who maneuver and control those who have the decision-making power in the states. And then what they're going to do is then tailor it just towards that small few folks and not for all the people. And that's how you end up with a robust workforce of people who are incarcerated for minor things and then end up working and building infrastructure with no pay. That's how you end up with people losing their rights to vote. That's how you end up with a school system that bans books and burns books and throws them out. And that's how you end up in a system that will say, we're not going to teach all the history, just the stuff we want to tell you.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I also wanted to just ask about, with just given the devastating effects of Hurricane Helene and the timely allocations of FEMA funds, will Project 2025 impact FEMA's disaster relief or funds in any way?
It will devastate all of the progress that we have made on climate and environmental protections. I just spent the last week and a half in rural southeast Georgia, where communities are devastated, many of them who are still not back online, many of them who've lost everything that they have, right, and are just looking for a hot meal. And what Project 2025 would do is to not only roll back those environmental protections, the progress that we've made on climate, the historic federal investments that we've made into clean energy and climate protections and progress. But these folks are also climate deniers, right? And so we can't forget that they don't believe that there is anything that climate change even exists. And so we're on the cusp of another historic storm tomorrow that's supposed to hit Florida and impact, hundreds of thousands of folks. 75 South was at a standstill when I left home, right? And so folks are fleeing. We see what has happened in North Carolina, the landslides. I mean, these storms are getting bigger. and their divestment and denial is extremely harmful to our communities and to the work that we're doing, not just for the environment and climate change, but the health implications that come with environmental harm, right? The air that we breathe, the water that folks are able to drink, the biolabs industries. And if you remove those protections and then deregulate those industries, what is left to protect us from folks taking advantage and just harming our environment in general?
3 departments in particular, just off of what I'm reading. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which does the research about climate change, they want to dismantle that. In the same way that previously, before the pandemic, they dismantled that previous administration dismantled all the research and advanced preparation on dealing with pandemics, and then that's what caused such a bad pandemic circumstance to occur. So, in the same way that they did it with the science that deals with health, now they want to deal with it with the science that deals with the environment. The Office of the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, they want to reform or eliminate that. Also, one last one is the Office of Clean Energy, and they want to get rid of all of these type of things that make us accountable and makes the industry accountable for the good of the planet. Because if we don't have a planet, I don't care how many state lines you got, we got nothing.
Thank you. The last aspect or thing that I would like you all to discuss is reproductive health. So reproductive health is extremely important to me, to family members, friends. There are several people that I know who has gone through or trying to go through IVF. There are several people that I know who actually take birth control simply to help with the pain that women may experience when they're on their cycle. So, and not to even discuss abortion, can we just talk about a little bit how Project 2025 would impact and affect women regarding reproductive health?
You think about allowing the states to control everything. There is a law or a policy being proposed right now in Amarillo, Texas, that will criminalize folks who drive on the interstate just to take someone to get the care that they deserve. We saw the deaths of Amber Thurman, um, and the rallies around a preventable death because she was not allowed to get the care that she deserved, because even physicians are afraid of repercussions. We think about Black girls who use birth control to regulate their acne in middle school, right? And we think about access to that. We think about Black women who suffer from fibroids and endometriosis and other health related conditions that are extremely painful, being unable to get the care and the tools that they need in order to regulate those things. We think about groups like the Father Group in Texas, who meets weekly just to be supportive for each other, because one of the wives passed away and they didn't have a support group. And so reproductive health is not just about access to birth control or to abortion. It is that folks are literally dying to have children and just need basic care. Caregivers need to be able to provide the care that they need, and women and families need to be able to make the best determination for themselves, without government interference.
And it's also important to note that they want to take women back. Everything is about taking back rights that women have gained as far as their body autonomy. And as Fanika mentioned, it's not even about just whether or not a woman chooses to have an abortion. It's about whether or not a woman chooses to have birth control, whether it's the birth control is for the prevention of pregnancy, or if it's to control hormonal acne, or whatever reason. In America, we have for a developed nation have a very high maternal mortality rate. So just having a baby in America is dangerous. If you think about the story of Serena Williams, how she nearly died after giving birth to her firstborn child because she was ignored when she told the doctors that she wasn't feeling well. So when you talk about forcing women to carry pregnancies to term, you're sort of forcing them, you're sort of putting them in a situation where they are putting their health at risk because of the system that we have. Like, so they're in one breath, they're wanting to take away women's ability to choose and make their own healthcare decisions, but they're not doing anything to improve the situation and the medical conditions that we're in. And then, of course, once the child is here, they don't want to feed it or clothe it or do anything to support it. So just be mindful. I tell younger women when I speak to them that it's within my grandmother's generation that she needed permission from a man to open a bank account. And they are actively trying to go back to that time in America where women not only couldn't control their body, but they couldn't even open a bank account on their own. And so we have to be very mindful about the candidates that we support.
If I might, in my unqualified way, jump in on this subject right here. And let me just say it clearly. When we begin to criminalize the necessary medical practices that we have sent people to learn about so that they can save lives, are we operating in the best interest of the people? I'm going to go ahead and even broach the subject of abortion. Most people say, well, what's the pastor going to say? He's against abortion. You cannot legislate morality. And now let me say it theologically. God gave all of us a free will. Now, either we're going to have people who actually choose to have a child or not. But when you begin to criminalize a behavior, then those who have the money and the resources will just fly to another country. But those who are left with all of the negative consequences, they can't even get out of the county, not just the country, to get the health care that they need. Doctors are afraid to treat. You spoke about Serena Williams. I think about the Olympic athlete, the track star, who died in her home because she was sent home because they did not, the mortality rate for African-American women is off the charts. And like so many other things when it comes to healthcare, when we talk about rolling things back and moving them back, you're right. It's not just a one-off, oh, this is the only thing we're going to try and remove and take away. This is the only privilege we're going to take away. No, what they're really striving and trying to do is to maintain power and control in a very small group as they watch the demographics of this country change.
And as Laprelle comes back in, you hit the nail on the head, Dr. Vining. It is about a demographic shift. In 2030, Black and Brown youth will be the largest voting bloc in demographic in this country. You understand? And you know, their population is declining, right? Everybody is stagnant, but their population, white populations, are declining in record numbers, and most of these policies are about the demographic shifts that are happening in this country, and we just have to speak truth to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for that great discussion. I think it is very beneficial. So on behalf of the Warner Robins Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, thank you again to my fellow thank you again for my fellow moderator, Reverend Daryl Vinans, our candidates, panelists, and audience for your participation in our virtual Meet the Candidates political forum. It is our hope that voters can make a well-informed decision as they prepare to vote during this election season. And Dr. Vinings, he will come on to share some information about voting. But before he do that, I would like to put emphasis on the citizens just checking your voting status. Please, please continue to vote, to check your voting status. Even if it says inactive, you still can vote. So check your voting status, and they will put the link up on the screen in a few minutes so that you will have access and know where to go to check your voting status. So again, check your voting status. If you're registered to vote and your status is inactive, you are still able to vote. Dr. Vinings.
Early voting begins October the 15th. That's next week, and runs until November the 2nd. Find out not just when it's available, but what Saturdays it's available, and what is your strategy and plan for voting. Because if you're going to go vote, what's your strategy for mobilizing and helping your neighbor get to the voting booth? Find your election day polling location at the mvp.sos.ga.gov to check your voter registration status, and even print your sample ballot ahead of time. Your vote, your voice, make sure it's heard. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.